He did this. He did this. Take him. Take him. Cersei Lannister has just watched her son collapse and die in her arms. Within 3 seconds, she has already named the killer. The stunning thing is not that she named him. It's that she was certain. No evidence required. No investigation needed. Watch how the human brain transforms overwhelming grief into immediate, unshakable conviction, and why Tyrion became the only suspect Cersei could possibly see. There is one line in this scene that seems like the certainty of a mother in shock. The novels prove it is something far darker. Stay until the end. I will show you what Cersei's mind was actually doing beneath that accusation. To calculate the atmospheric pressure of the Red Keep on this night, we must understand 3 colliding forces. First, Cersei Lannister is drowning in humiliation. Margaery Tyrell has spent the entire feast outmaneuvering her, stealing Joffrey's attention, positioning herself as the merciful queen while Cersei watches from the shadows. Cersei has raised Joffrey to be a weapon, a creature of her will, and now he is slipping into someone else's hands. Second, Tyrion Lannister is a living wound in Cersei's mind. He is the dwarf she has wanted convicted of something. Anything, for years. His presence at this wedding is not merely an insult. It is proof that Tywin has chosen him. Third, Joffrey is a boy who lives to hurt people, and he chooses Tyrion as tonight's target. He pours wine on Tyrion's head. He demands he kneel. He makes him a public fool. By the time Joffrey reaches for his cup, Tyrion's humiliation is absolute, and Cersei's rage at watching it happen is indistinguishable from joy.
Thank you. Brienne. My brother safely to King's Landing.
Cersei's gratitude is a blade wrapped in velvet. Brienne brought Jaime back, but Cersei does not forgive the woman who took him from her. She doesn't forgive anyone. Watch what happens when Margaery arrives.
Everyone! The Queen would like to say a few words.
Listen to the tone. Margaery is not announcing. She is stealing the moment. Cersei's forced smile in the background is not warmth. It is the smile of a woman watching her power being dismantled in real time. Cersei has been queen for years, but Margaery has something Cersei does not. She has Joffrey's genuine attention. When Margaery speaks, Joffrey listens. When Cersei speaks, Joffrey rolls his eyes. This is displacement in the most literal sense. Cersei is being replaced, and the woman replacing her wears a crown of flowers while Cersei wears a crown of ice. Displacement? A psychological defense mechanism in which anger toward one target is redirected onto a safer, more vulnerable target. In this moment, Cersei's rage at Margaery and Joffrey has nowhere to go. But when Tyrion enters the frame, holding an empty cup after Joffrey has emptied it on his head, Cersei's misdirected fury has found a target that cannot fight back.
Uncle!
Imitation of your own true king wins hours before his wedding. Fine vintage.
Joffrey is not just mocking Tyrion. He is performing for Margaery. Every humiliation is a display. Every cruelty is a show of strength to impress the woman who will share his throne. And Cersei sees it. She sees that Joffrey is using Tyrion as a stage prop in a scene designed to please Margaery. What Cersei does not see, what she refuses to see, is that Joffrey is beyond her control now.
Kneel.
The demand for kneeling is not about respect. It is about ownership. Joffrey is a boy who learned cruelty from his mother. Now he is practicing it without her permission. When Tyrion refuses to kneel, he is not defying Joffrey. He is exposing the fact that Joffrey cannot actually make anyone do anything if they choose to refuse. The bell that rings moments later breaks the tension, but Cersei has witnessed something that terrifies her. Her son has power independent of her will.
Good. Needs washing down.
Joffrey drinks from the poisoned cup. His face turns red, then purple. His throat closes. He claws at his own skin. He dies. And in that moment, as he collapses into death, Cersei's mind does not reach for logic. It reaches for the closest available target that has already been marked for her rage all night. Tyrion, who is holding the cup, standing within arm's reach, vulnerable and absolutely innocent. Listen to the shift. 60 words ago, Cersei was a woman whose son was being taken from her by another woman's influence. Now she is a mother watching her son die. The grief is genuine. The terror is real. But the accusation that follows will destroy everything.
He poisoned my son. Your king.
3 seconds of silence between Joffrey's death and Cersei's certainty. In that gap, Cersei's mind collapsed all available information into a single impossible conclusion. This is effective forecasting failure at its most brutal. When the emotional system is overwhelmed, the brain mistranslates emotional intensity for factual knowledge. Effective forecasting failure, the mind's tendency to treat the certainty of feeling as evidence of truth. Cersei did not decide Tyrion was guilty. She felt it with such force that the feeling became indistinguishable from sight. She saw him hold the cup. She saw him defiant. She saw him as a target of her rage all night. Her feelings about Tyrion are so violent that they overwrite her perception of what actually happened. But here is what the show never told you. In A Storm of Swords, the novels offer access to Cersei's mind during this exact moment. The show presents her accusation as a shock born of grief. The book reveals it as something far more calculated. Cersei is not simply a mother broken by loss. She is a woman whose entire identity depends on her ability to control her son and protect her family name. When Joffrey dies, she does not simply lose a child. She loses the primary instrument through which she has wielded power. And in that loss, her mind reaches for the only logic available to her. Someone must be guilty. Someone must pay. The identity of that someone matters far less than the fact of guilt itself. This moment determines everything that follows. Tyrion's trial, Tywin's execution, the fracturing of the Lannister house. All of it springs from these 3 seconds of a mother's mind collapsing under the weight of grief. The show gets the surface right. The book gets the depth. And the depth changes everything about how we should read Cersei's subsequent certainty, her cruelty during Tyrion's trial, and her refusal ever to consider alternative suspects. If you've made it this far, you've already understood that Cersei's grief is inseparable from her power. That's the signal that unlocks the deeper book analysis on this channel. Like this video, if Cersei's accusation shocked you as much as it devastated Tyrion. Subscribe if you want to see how the novels rewrite what we thought we saw in the show. Now let me show you what else the show buried. The first revelation is an omission so complete that no show-only viewer could ever know what was missing. In Assos, the chapter in which Joffrey dies is not told from Cersei's perspective at all. It is told from Sansa's eyes. Sansa witnesses Joffrey collapse. Sansa sees the chaos and panic. Sansa hears Cersei scream. But Sansa does not hear Cersei accuse Tyrion. Instead, Sansa is spirited away by Ser Dontos, the man working with Littlefinger, before Cersei even speaks the accusation. The show puts Sansa on screen long enough to see Tyrion holding the cup and Cersei pointing at him. The book removes her from the scene before the accusation is even spoken. Sansa only hears what happened to Tyrion later, secondhand, from gossip. She is never a witness to Cersei's conviction. This omission matters because it forces the book reader to confront a devastating question that the show never asks. What if Cersei's accusation is so automatic, so unthinking, that even someone standing right there cannot see the moment it happens? The show makes the accusation public and inevitable. The book makes it private and automatic, a gesture of a mind so broken that it does not even require an audience to perform the guilty verdict. The second revelation is a softening so deliberate that it reshapes Cersei's entire character arc. In the book, after Joffrey dies, Cersei does accuse Tyrion, but the accusation is not her only response to her son's death. Cersei is also consumed by a specific terror. She believes that Tyrion may have learned about the prophecy. She believes that he may know what the witch told her as a child, that she would be queen until a younger, more beautiful queen cast her down. She believes Tyrion may have orchestrated Joffrey's death, not just to murder a king, but to fulfill that prophecy and eliminate her chance at power forever. The show strips away this layer of psychological complexity. It presents Cersei's accusation as pure maternal grief. The book shows it as maternal grief tangled with paranoia about destiny, prophecy, and the inevitable replacement of one woman by another. The show protects us from the full depth of Cersei's darkness by simplifying her to a grieving mother. The book forces us to see that her grief is inseparable from her obsession with power, prophecy, and her terror of being forgotten. This softening amplifies the original term. Her effective forecasting failure is not just about confusing feeling with fact. It is about confusing feeling with prophecy, mistaking her own emotional certainty for cosmic inevitability. The third revelation is a timeline shift that rewrites cause and effect entirely. In the show, Cersei is isolated at the Purple Wedding. She sits apart from Tyrion. She watches him be humiliated. She watches him hold the cup. Then Joffrey dies, and she accuses him. The sequence is linear and visual. In the book, Cersei's relationship with Tyrion leading up to this moment is far more complex. She has spent weeks, not just minutes, building her case against him. She has already convinced herself that he is planning something. She has already positioned guards and informants. By the time the wedding arrives, Cersei is not simply a woman watching her son. She is a woman who has already decided, on some deep level, that Tyrion is guilty of something. The accusation at the wedding is not a spontaneous eruption. It is the inevitable conclusion of a conspiracy theory. Cersei has been building in her own mind for weeks. The show makes the accusation reactive. The book makes it calculated. Or, more precisely, both. The book's Cersei has pre-constructed the narrative so completely that when Joffrey dies, she is simply confirming what she has already decided to believe. This reordering means that Tyrion's trial is not a miscarriage of justice caused by grief. It is a miscarriage of justice that Cersei planned before her son was even poisoned. The fourth revelation is the hidden interior monologue that no show viewer could ever access. In the chapters immediately following Joffrey's death, the book gives us access to Cersei's mind. She is not simply grieving. She is not simply enraged. She is something far more specific. She is convinced that she understands exactly what happened, and that understanding is a certainty so complete that she experiences it as a kind of knowledge, even though it is purely fabrication. Cersei thinks something like this, not a direct quote, but the essence of her thoughts. My son is dead, and my dwarf brother stands holding the cup. He has hated Joffrey for years. He was humiliated tonight. He had the means. He had the motive. Therefore, he is guilty. And from that logical chain, which feels so complete, so internally consistent, Cersei constructs an absolute certainty. The wound beneath this certainty is older than tonight. It reaches back to Cersei's childhood, to her relationship with Tywin, to her terror of being powerless, of being replaced, of being a woman in a world where a dwarf boy can have more authority than a queen. When Tyrion is placed in front of her, vulnerable, wet from wine, holding an empty cup, he becomes a repository for every fear Cersei has ever carried. Her accusation is not about what happened at the wedding. It is about who she is afraid she has become. A woman who cannot protect her power, whose son is dying, whose control is evaporating. Blaming Tyrion does not solve any of this, but it gives Cersei the one thing she cannot live without, a narrative in which she is not helpless. When you stack all four revelations on top of Cersei's effective forecasting failure, the scene transforms completely. You now know what the show cut, the weeks of planning that led to the accusation. You now know what it softened, the prophecy paranoia that tangled her grief with cosmic terror. You now know what it reordered, a calculated conspiracy built before the poisoning, not after it. And you now know what the character was thinking, an absolute, internally consistent narrative in which guilt is identical to the fear she cannot name. Cersei's accusation was never about evidence. It was about identity. It was about maintaining the story she tells herself, about her power, her role, her son. When that story collapses with Joffrey's death, she does not search for truth. She searches for a villain that will allow her story to survive. Tyrion is that villain not because he poisoned the wine, but because Cersei has already decided she cannot bear a world in which he is not guilty. This is what the novels teach us about the difference between grief and certainty. The show presents Cersei's accusation as an emotional eruption. The book presents it as a narrative collapse, so complete that Cersei reconstructs reality to preserve her sense of self. Watch this scene now, and you will never see Cersei as simply a grieving mother. You will see her as a woman whose identity is so fragile that it requires constant, active destruction of anyone who threatens the story she tells herself about her own power. In the modern world, this is how rumors become facts. This is how conspiracies are born. When we experience overwhelming emotion, grief, fear, rage, our brains do what Cersei's brain did. They search for a narrative that makes sense of the feeling. They identify a target. They construct a logical chain. And then they mistake the feeling of completion for actual evidence. Every witch hunt, every false accusation, every rushed judgment against a colleague or an ex-partner operates on Cersei's logic. I feel certain, therefore I must be right. The lesson is not about Cersei. It is about recognizing when your own certainty might be a construction, when your narrative might be complete precisely because you have already decided who must be guilty, and that decision has nothing to do with facts. Here is the question for you. Knowing everything the novels reveal about Cersei's mind during this moment, do you believe she genuinely thought Tyrion was guilty? Or did she simply need him to be guilty in order to survive the feeling of powerlessness that Joffrey's death created? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next.